I either sold or gave away to somebody else because I liked my amplifiers that I built. Two of them were built on the Fender Deluxe schematic, and the first one was actually a kit from Mojo Town, and I got a complete kit with all the parts and the schematics, and the cabinet was all made by them, and it was a tweed cabinet, and that turned out fine. It worked right from the first get-go, and I powered it on. And, so I had it for a year, and then I got the itch and started planning. I wanted to build another one. Only I wanted to make my own cabinet, so I had to buy some equipment. I didn't have a table saw, and I just had a cheap router, a Black & Decker router, and a Black & Decker table, which was plastic. And so I went and bought a Craftsman table saw, and I built a few jigs to use on the table saw so that I could do finger joints and put the pieces together for the cabinet, and I glued them all together and routed the corners after the cabinet was put together. I had to build a faceplate for it to mount the speaker to, and so when I cut the circle for the speaker, I did that on the table for the router, and I pivoted around on a pin to the correct radius, and I routed a nice circle out of it, and that baffled board came out nice. It was a nice cut, and it looked professional. And I stained that cabinet and coated it with polyvinyl coating, and that bigger cabinet, it was like 2 inches taller, but it made a little bit richer sound in the tone when I finally got the parts all together and wired it and put the board in and put all the parts in it. It took me a while of ordering parts, and by the time I had completed the second build, it was 2 years after I had done the first one, because I was buying parts as I went along, and I was buying tools and things like that. That one came out pretty nice, and I also built a 212 cabinet to go with it that I could plug into it. So I had the onboard speaker, and then I had the 212 cabinet besides. So goes along a while, and I start itching again to build another one. I decided I would build a head cabinet this time because I already had the 212 external cabinet. I didn't really need to build a combo amp. So I got all the parts and everything to build a 6G3 which is a Brown Deluxe Fender circuit. And oh, I lost my train of thought, but anyway. Oh, okay, yeah. So while I was building that, I started building the cabinet for that, and I wanted to do, instead of finger jointing, I wanted to do dovetail. So I bought a Harbor Freight dovetail jig and some cutters and did a few test pieces, set them up and fitted them, and I built a box with a groove to put a bottom into it as a first test, and just a junk box is really what it is. It's what I throw extra parts in, so it's a junk box. And that worked pretty good. It looked pretty good. In fact, I never even glued the joints. It's just all fit together, and it stays together as a junk box. That's fine and dandy the way it is. That turned out pretty good, so I cut the material for the cabinet for the head unit, and I did all the finger joints on that and fit that all together. Glued it and routed the corners on it, and I used the same finish on that as I did the prior amp I built before it, which was the 5E3 Deluxe with the bigger cabinet and with the wood finish, and the 212 cabinet was with it. So I used the same finish, and I also reclaimed some cedar from the hurricane that we had here a couple years ago, and I cut pieces for inlays and things and added that to the cabinet as I was building it. And I made like cedar faceplate across the head cabinet on the front, and I used cedar for a restraint rail on the back, so if I put my cord in there or a pedal or anything, it would restrain things in transit. I could carry things inside the head cabinet. That come out beautiful too. That was I think it came out nicer because the dovetails looked a lot nicer than the finger joint. I didn't have them sanded off as good as I should have, and the finger joint cabinet, the ends were sticking out just a little bit past the surface of the mating board, and so it was just a slight bit high as they come out and come together, where the dovetail, that come out beautiful. Everything. Of course, I learned the trick of using the router to trim it back with a guide bearing on the end, so that it would just trim it flush, which I wish I'd have done that on the cabinet before, and I didn't. So I learned from that, and so when I did the last one there, the 6G3, that come out so nice. I wish I'd done the same thing with the dovetails on the prior cabinets, because it really made a difference, and it's probably a stronger joint too. You really can't pull it apart because of the dovetails. Well, I've got 8 guitars along with the amps I've built in the 212 cabinet. 2 of my guitars are Gibson Les Pauls. One was the Robot, which was a studio Les Paul, is what they used to make the Robot. And so I've since changed out the tuning on that. It's still automatic tuning, but it's the upgraded Tronical instead of the original Robot tuners, where everything is in the headstock instead of the electronics down in the cavity where the potentiometers are for your volumes and tone. It doesn't have any of the electronics in there for the tuning anymore. It's all on the headstock, and that works pretty good. And I've also got a faded Les Paul, which is the second Les Paul, and I've got 2 Fenders. One is an American Deluxe Stratocaster with the roller nut, the S1 switch, and it's got a pearl finish on it, Olympic pearl, with a humbucker in the bridge position, so it's HSS. And then I've got the other one that's a Fender, is a Mexican Telly with the wide field humbuckers in it. I have 4 Gretsch guitars, G5420T. I have a ProJet Electromatic. I can't remember exactly what the number is for that. I have I think it's a 5434. It's a Savannah acoustic electric with a trem bar on that. It's got a Bigsby on it. And I have the 5622 Electromatic with the Bigsby. All the Gretches have the Bigsby. I did have another Gretsch, which I sold it to my grandson for a real deal. I only charged him $300 for it, so he got a steal on that. And I had given him other things in the past. I said, if you really want it, you're going to have to give me something for it. You know, you're going to get a deal anyway. And he had the money, so he gave me the money, and when I went up north, I took it up to him. Actually, he gave me the money when I got there. So that would have been a ninth guitar, and there was another guitar I got rid of, which was my dad's guitar. It was a Peavey, and I gave it to my other grandson, and that would have been the 10th guitar. And then there's two other guitars I owned in the past that I gave away. One of my other grandsons I gave my Sheraton Electric. I think I bought that in 92 or 93, and he was taking lessons, and I heard him play, and I decided he needed a good guitar, so I gave that to him, and he got pretty good. And then my son, I gave him my acoustic Sheraton, which was a jumbo, and that one there I had bought in 1974, I think it was, and he still got that. So that would have been something like 12 guitars I've owned, plus another old Japanese guitar that from back, probably from the 60s or something. I can't even remember what name it was. It played good, but it had a crack where the neck mounted into the body. It was a bowled-in neck, but it had a crack. So I got rid of it. It was a cheap guitar, but it played, it sounded nice, had good tone. So that would have been 13 guitars I've owned if I'd kept them all, but I've only got 8 now. Okay, this is my first test of this system, and I'm going to close the video down. And thanks for watching, and we'll talk to you later sometime when I start streaming other things and I plan things out better.